Welcome to this week's episode of LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Bronagh Morgan. This is the show where we talk about what you're talking about, London, southwestern Ontario, everywhere in our viewing area. And I have had such a wonderful season talking to so many fascinating people. Today's episode, I get to talk to one of my absolute favorite artists in anticipation of National Indigenous Peoples Day coming up in June. Steve Maracle, local artist that I have been following for a long time, finally got to meet him, have his art in the studio. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time today away from painting to be here on LdnOnt TV.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Steve, so obviously, you know, I'm a big fan of your art. You paint with acrylic paints on canvas. How long have you been painting?
So I've been painting probably since about 2019 is when I started to take it seriously. It all started at Museum of Archaeology. We were just there for a powwow, and I was walking through, and one of the programs offered was to make a mandala with Moses Lunam. So we went and sat down and we did this mandala, and I was really quite happy with the little thunderbird that I made. After we left that, I literally went to the river next day, found some willow branches and just constructed my own mandala frames, and probably made about 30 of them and started painting, and it pretty much took off after that.
So what inspires you when you're thinking about, you know, what am I going to paint today? Talk to maybe about your subject matter, the colors you use. What is it that and maybe the messages that you're trying to get across?
Okay, so what inspires me the most is just the native people with the woodland style. So one of my big influences would be Norval Morrisseau. As many native young artists, they look up to him, and he kind of set the groundwork for a lot of us to be expressive and to put your colors down, to express yourself in whatever way you would like to. So I really hold him in high regard, and also like Maxine Noel, she taught me to walk with kindness, and those are two of my big inspirations. So I really feed off of that quite a bit. And then a lot of native art is to do with storytelling. So, you know, it's a thunderbird, it's an eagle, it's a bear. But recently I've been kind of drawn to the Thames River, which they call Deshkan Zibi in Ojibwe. And I was asked to just paint fish that run through the river, and I've been doing that for about maybe 6 months now. But I've basically painted thunderbirds and all the spirit animals realistically, because the native people are drawn to the clan animals, and each painting kind of is like a story being told, like whether it's the fish or whether it's like a girl in her regalia with the red hand on there to signify murdered and missing Indigenous women. And that's a big inspiration for me too, is it's a big problem in Canada that our women are going missing. So I tried just to show love and care, that it's not a dead subject and that it actually matters to us and to everybody. So I'm inspired by culture, basically, is the biggest thing. I want to spread awareness, spread stories, and spread happiness, show that it's that you can be inspired by many things, and that you don't have to be scared to express yourself.
So you I guess came to art not late in life, but not as, you know, you haven't been doing this since you were a child. I guess, well, maybe everybody's been painted when they were a child, but you really just got into painting as a career in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started off in 2018. I started my sobriety journey. I was, you know, I had addiction issues with alcohol, and I ended up beating it in 2018.
Congratulations.
Thank you. October 1st I started out, and today I'm still holding strong, and ever since I committed myself to this healing journey, my life has changed like 200%. 200%. I paint all the time now. I gift things away. I'm humble. I like to learn. I like to help people that are in need. It's really just changed my life, painting. Just a canvas and paints.
And so you paint in your own home studio.
Yep.
And so if people were thinking about trying to buy a Steve Maracle painting, I guess you sell online.
Yep, so basically, mostly it's through Facebook on another Maracle creation, but I also have my artwork at Gallery Indigenous in Stratford. It's been selling there for a couple years now, and actually sold a painting I did of Autumn Peltier, the water walker, and it went to Germany. Some gentleman in Germany bought it, and he sent me a really nice feedback letter, and it was probably the highlight of my career so far in the art world, basically.
Fantastic. So you have art all over the world. That's got to feel great.
Yep.
Working with other members of the Indigenous community, you work at LdnOnt, I believe, as well.
Yeah, so in December I started my journey at LdnOnt. I worked at a factory for a long time, and I decided I needed a change in life, and yeah, LdnOnt opened up with welcoming arms and took me on, and I now work there as a maintenance man, but it has basically changed my life working there too. They introduced me to culture, teachings, healing practices. I got introduced to a sweat lodge, and now I've done 3 sweats. I've helped build the sweat lodge, and we erected a teepee once. Like, these are just life-changing events for me, and every day I go to work, I'm actually inspired, and I look forward to going to work every day now.
That is, I think, something that everybody aspires to in life. So work that you love, not a hobby, an actual, like, 2 careers that you love. So art and also working at LdnOnt. National Indigenous Peoples Day is coming up. What is coming up for you?
So that's a good question. National Indigenous Day is a pretty held high regard in our culture these days, and it's a big thing in the city now. And so for this year, I was going to be at Wortley Village, but I think I have different plans now to go hopefully to Toronto to set up my art for Indigenous Day on the harbour front. I'm hoping that works out, and that's going to be the next big thing. But also LdnOnt has given me the opportunity this year to design the orange shirt, which has basically given me goosebumps, because they've had females doing it before, and then they wanted to this year have a male's take on it, and I was down on the list a little bit, but a couple people dropped out, and they asked me if I could do it last minute, and then I just said absolutely I can, because any opportunity is a good opportunity, whether it's last minute or it's 4 months in advance. Sometimes in life you have to jump on these opportunities.
Absolutely.
So I'm really looking forward to this, as it's just going to be another life-changing event to be a part of this and see people wearing a design that I made. It makes my hair stand up every day since I was told I was going to be able to do it.
It's got to be a fantastic feeling. Now, I don't want to try and find out, because I'm looking forward to being surprised about what the image is going to look like. Maybe we could, just with the last minute or 2 that we have in this segment, talk to maybe other people that might be watching that are thinking about art, or maybe need to get over that hurdle to give it, put their ideas on paper, on canvas. What could you say to kind of inspire those people?
I would say, first off, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to try, and don't expect to sell your paintings right away for a lot of money. Just like build it up, be kind with it, and share it with others. Maybe gift the first couple away, but just keep building on it. Try to be better with every painting. Like, every painting I make, I try to be better on the next one. Learn new tricks, try new things, new images, new scenes, new scenarios, new teachings, like maybe painting clan animals, and then I go paint a winter scene or an igloo. Just don't be afraid. That's what I find. Don't be afraid. Like, I started out in my first couple, I wouldn't even hang in the closet, but now if you just keep at it, it's like anything, it will grow. And lately, art has been manifesting so fast for me that I'm so grateful. I don't even understand the opportunities I get some days, to be quite honest with you. And I don't know, the one thing I can say is just to walk with kindness. If you walk with kindness, everything will come after that. Like, if you meet an artist who's in need, maybe give them a canvas or some paints, or share some wealth of your knowledge, or just hold space for them. Just chat, be open, just be transparent. Like, art is for everyone. I believe everyone can do art. Everyone says that they can't make a stick figure, but I don't believe that. Like, everyone can paint. And it doesn't matter if it's gallery saleable or not. Like, if you paint something and you give it to your grandma, she will love you for the rest of your life. She'll hang it on her wall, and it will mean something. Art is meaningful for people. Like, it brings happiness to people. It brings learnings, cultural teachings. It can be magnificent. That's
it. That's the end of this segment. I could not have said that better. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that message. Thank you for listening. We still have more LdnOnt TV to come with more inspiring people, so please stay with us.
This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Carbon monoxide is a deadly gas you can't see, smell, or taste.
Homes with fuel-burning appliances and/or attached garages must have working CO alarms installed outside all sleeping areas.
Don't let the silent killer get you. Install working CO alarms today.
Hi, I'm Dan Mailer. I'm the host of London Lights, the show where we talk about notable Londoners who have made a big mark, big impact on the world of music, entertainment, sports, politics.
When I first moved into the community, our creation story was one of the first things that I was told. That's a very important aspect to our culture, to who we are, and that story of our origins and of our people. I moved into the community. I moved back to the community when I was 10 or 11 and had never experienced that before. So to know that my nation has these deep roots is really important and really impactful in my life. And just like how our people are so able to express that. The gift of storytelling is what I think a lot of our community members have.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Bronagh. Had a great conversation, had my, fellow artist conversation. So it was a great experience for me to be around a fellow artist. Fellow writer now I get to share some space with, and friend to the show because we've chatted with Kristi White before. She is an Indigenous author of a fantastic children's book series, which now is a 4-book series. Last time we chatted, it was a 3-book series. Welcome to the show, Kristi.
Thank you.
So talk to our viewers, just I guess for those people who didn't see the last episode, what is Jay and Gizmo all about?
So The Adventures of Jay and Gizmo is about an Indigenous boy named Jay and his friend Gizmo and all the adventures they go on. So the book series starts off with the first book where they just establish their friendship. Our second book is about where Jay and Gizmo go and visit a hoop dancer. And our third one is about Boys and Braids, and this new one is about powwow. One thing I just really wanted to share before I get into reading the book is why this kind of series is so important.
Absolutely.
So number one, I was doing some studying in the last couple of days, and I don't know, as a writer yourself, did you know that worldwide, every year for Indigenous publication, it's only 2% of books published all over the world are Indigenous. And that number gets even lower when it's actually an Indigenous person versus animals or that kind of thing. So that's number one. When I was a child, I had a really difficult time identifying with children's characters and that kind of thing. So when I started the series, that was my main focus, is really trying to build that inclusive space for Indigenous children, especially little boys who have been bullied about their hair and that kind of thing. I have a really firm belief that the number one form of harm reduction for BIPOC children is appropriate representation. They need to see us in spaces like being an author and a publisher, an artist, a lawyer, a doctor. So I really go around and really show that we can do all kinds of sorts of things and really talk about inclusivity and building that space. And again, really trying to share, as you see our character Jay, he's got his braids. And that's always one really good thing is a lot of our little guys, because they are still wearing their hair long and in braids, and more of our boys are doing that, right? And taking on that whole pride in that. So again, a lot of littles know a lot of Spanish. I even know a lot of Spanish because of Dora and Diego, which is wonderful.
Right.
But I really think we need to start doing that for our Indigenous children across Canada. They need to be able to identify with something that looks just like them, kind of talks like them, does the things that they do. And again, it also gives other children just that view into our world a little bit, right? And so that way they have an understanding of where maybe those Indigenous children are coming from sitting next to them. So the whole book series is really about just really building inclusive spaces, right? For all children. Because it opens up those topics, it opens up those conversations. And again, we have so many little fans because they just love seeing themselves represented in something. And so now the books are being used in places like Guatemala, Philippines, all over the place to teach little boys and girls over there English. Because again, it's a character that they can identify with, so they're really excited to take on literacy and all of those things.
So you saw, I guess, a lack, or you didn't see what you were hoping to see in children's literature, which is characters that were representative of young Indigenous kids here in Canada. And so you took it upon yourself, inspired by people you know, and maybe a cat you know, maybe a hoop dancer you know.
Absolutely.
To write some stories. And so this latest book, Kristi, talking about powwows, what's happened? What are Jay and Gizmo up to learning about powwows?
So one of the things is it's just a really excuse me, a really easy introduction to powwows for littles, right? If they haven't gone in that kind of thing. So Jay and Gizmo go and they, well, actually, in this book, and we'll learn why after, Gizmo actually stays home this time. But Jay goes and explores the powwow and comes back and talks to Gizmo all about it. And that's just stuff like that little bit. They go, there's a little bit in the book. Going back to characters about hoop dancers, and in this book we have a fancy feather dancer, and his name is David White, and he's from Bikejanaong, and he was so great to be part of this book. And another
this is a real person, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the other thing is, two of our characters so far are real people. They're real dancers that kids can connect with when they're out in community and that kind of thing. And I think it's really important to our children to see not only a character they can relate to, but other characters that are people that they may know, right, and out of community, because they're just so excited to be able to go and say, oh my goodness, you're the person from my book, or you're the person who wrote my book, or I know Jay. And it's an incredible journey. And yeah, so anyway, so that's the newest book, is where we go and learn about a little bit about powwow. So I would like to actually share this book if I could.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit.
So all of my books actually start off in the beginning with this here, where it says this book belongs to. And I think that's really important for all children, to have that sense of pride and ownership, right? I think you remember when we were little, we used to take our book to our mom or dad and say, oh, can you read me my book? So again, that just kind of brings back of, oh, this is mine and there's something in it that represents me. So
Absolutely.
This is really important. I think a lot of us as adults don't really understand how important this kind of stuff is to our littles. It was a beautiful summer morning where Jay lived. He was an Indigenous boy whose house was on the edge of a large forest. There were not many children in the houses near Jay, and his best friend was a cat that he had rescued. The name of his cat was Gizmo, and he had shared many adventures and had a lot of fun playing together. A very important part of their lives now was how much they were learning about Jay's culture as an Indigenous boy. So again, just using some of those great words, right, that children are hearing every day now, especially in the news and media. So it just kind of gives them an idea that what we're talking about as adults.
Can you tell us a little bit about the illustrations?
Absolutely. My illustrator, her name is Sherry Campbell, and she's actually from the Toronto area, and she's a social worker, and she went to school for fine arts. And so this was a project. She was so eager, both of us were so eager, being BIPOC women from community, and just again, both of us really seeing that need for all BIPOC children to be able to see new characters and up-and-coming characters that represented more of those BIPOC children, right? And amazing.
They are beautiful.
Absolutely. And I'll say she did an amazing job. Like, our children just gravitate to how everything looks. We did everything, like even on all of the feet, our moccasins, great detail that our littles look for in the way of pictures that say, oh yeah, those moccasins are just like mine. So she did a fantastic job of really, like, if you see in this in the back, even the little Post-it notes. So much detail in the way of education and in the way of just, social and emotional wellness, especially for our BIPOC children, right? And that's what we both wanted. We both really didn't see a character growing up that was a real positive and good representation for our children. We did have some, but we're not sure that we feel that this day and age they were the most representative of us. So it's nice that we could sit down and we could both say that this was a huge need and put our energy into it, and exactly what we thought as two adults going into it, just looking, we never had this kind of thing as a child. And so now for both of us, I think it's just been a great experience when we have young ones come up to either one of us and say, oh my goodness, I know who Jay is, or I know who Gizmo is, and tell us about the books and the adventures they're taking them on now.
Fantastic. It's so inspiring you saw something, you saw a need, and it inspired you to become an author.
Yeah.
And so I think for people who are watching, you see a need in your community, be Kristi White and fill that need. Now, we do have to take a break, but sneak preview for our last segment, one of the characters from Jay and Gizmo will be here. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
London aims to reconstruct 80 lane kilometers of road, add or replace 20 kilometers of sanitary and storm sewers, rebuild 12 kilometers of water main, and construct 25 intersection improvements.
And this one will escape the Niagara end. We have a counterattack the other way. Ooh, that's a pass right in front and a goal.
Wow.
And how quickly can defense turn into offense?
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. As promised, character from Jay and Gizmo. I believe it was the second book, but also friend to the show. Normally we see you not seated when you're on the show. So River, thank you for being here. Talk to us about what it's like to be a character in a Jay and Gizmo book. What, the reaction of young people who recognize you from the book.
It's definitely quite an experience. With my autism, it's definitely one of the more interesting aspects of being a part of this book series. I am a fairly introverted person in like my daily life, so going out to like different events and seeing all like the faces when people come up and say like, hey, I've seen you before, or things like that. It's always a wonderful experience. I think like being a part of the book itself is a really great experience because I get to talk a lot about like struggles that I've faced and struggles that people are still facing within like education, things like that. And it allows me to further my own objective of like with Hoops for Hope and educating about disabilities and being able to work on better supporting those who may be struggling going through education in different areas of life.
For people who don't know about Hoops for Hope, you're a hoop dancer.
Yes.
And so you founded the organization, and the purpose is?
The purpose is to better support and work on advocacy for those with intellectual disabilities. So I myself have autism spectrum disorder. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at 2.5, but it's now just recognized as ASD because they no longer specifically recognize Asperger's as a type of autism. But the great thing about like Hoops for Hope is it allows me to go to like different communities and work with their youth and work with like the education systems and stuff like that are in place to better support those who need these resources and need that support. And I think this book series is a wonderful like sort of catalyst in being able to explore that sort of area in a more like kid-friendly environment.
Fantastic. Now, Hoops for Hope is called Hoops for Hope because of your status as a hoop dancer. How long have you been dancing?
So I've been dancing, I have lost track now. I think it's about 9 years now that I've been dancing. It's just time keeps flying by. But it's been about 9 years, I'm pretty sure. And so what's really great about it is that Hoops for Hope is called Hoops for Hope because it talks about the message of the hoop dance and why it's important to our people. The hoop dance itself is a dance that is representative of medicine. It's a dance that we use for prayer and for medicine for our people when they're going through hardship and stuff like that. It comes from the Hopi Nation, which is from southern Arizona, but it's been passed down through family lines going forward. And I was lucky enough to receive the dance when I was younger from a family member of mine and carry it from then on. But a lot of the teachings that I learned from the dance are what I carry forward in Hoops for Hope and educating about disabilities.
And so we chatted with Steve Maracle earlier, and who is encouraging people who have, you know, maybe are thinking about becoming artists. It's, you know, it's worth a try. How does somebody get started?
So I feel like when it comes to like advocacy and like also like being an artist and everything, it's all about finding your own creative passion. It's about discovering what you hold and value the most within like yourself and the environment around you, and being able to take that and carry that with you throughout life. Something that I've struggled with to start, but has become like a lot more, I guess, homogenous in my like daily life is the inclusion of like the lessons and everything that I talk about in terms of like support, and also as an artist, just carrying a lot of those lessons that I learn in the industry forward with me in daily life, using those to not only like do work within the industry, but also to look at my life from a objective stance that's outside of what I might normally do. And it's been a very impactful way of looking at things and moving forward. And I think that if people really look at like what they hold true and like really value in life, and they really want to pursue that, then I feel like it'll be a better creative experience as an artist.
Thank you so much. Great message from all of our guests. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. That's a wrap on our season as well. What a great way to end it. Thank you so much, River, Kristi, Steve, for being here, and thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you again next season. Take care and have a great summer.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
Welcome to Treat Yourself.